I'm trying to get my head around this, and it kind of portrays Anthropic as a good guy in this, right? Like fighting for democracy, trying to not, and the U.S. government is wanting something. Can they still get it if Anthropic doesn't give it to them? And it must be more nuanced than good guy versus someone that wants a technology that they could use for bad effects.
And I think you could argue, does a commercial entity have the right to determine how their products are used by the military? And the thing that made this whole situation kind of complicated is that what Anthropic was asking for, we want red lines around autonomous weapons and surveillance, domestic surveillance. Those things are already basically illegal, but they just weren't in the contract language. But the fact that the U.S. government didn't want to put that in the contract language meant that there was some flexibility down the line, and then Anthropic was worried about that. Now, what could happen next? Of course, someone else could just fill that gap. Another tech company, OpenAI, Elon Musk's xAI certainly has a lot of expertise, and Google DeepMind. Those are all possible contenders. And I think the real question is, has Anthropic now drawn a line in the sand? They've made this a public issue, which in a way is good. It could have just been behind closed doors, contract negotiations, but now this could maybe become a public debate, which is a good thing. Yeah,
so could it not force, but could it inspire other companies to do the same?
It could. The question is whether there is enough pressure on them to also have that same kind of standoff with the Pentagon. And so for them, that will be a business decision. I mean, it could be a question of integrity on the part of the executives. At the end of the day, some of these are publicly traded companies like Google. They have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders. Do they want to give up hundreds of millions of dollars in potential contracts just like Anthropic did? So it's really an open question how they'll do it.
I mean, we do sometimes, look at AI and say in terms of job displacements and all of that. But I guess fundamentally, it is it's different to any other kind of technologies, the Industrial Revolution, everything like that, because this is private companies.
Yeah.
Right. So does that really change how we should look at it?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the fact that some of these companies are public mean that they have shareholders who are part of that conversation. They are stakeholders, and they can put pressure on those companies. Just because a company is a private company doesn't mean they can't be part of that debate as well, because they have ChatGPT is used by almost 1 billion people, so they've got this whole other stakeholder set who needs to be part of that debate.
But who's the, and again, this is a difficult question, who's the right entity or government or person to try and put some guardrails in this new technology, or should we even be looking at putting guardrails?
That's a great question. It's got to be a combination. I wish it was a simple answer, but it's always the whole ecosystem answer. So there are civil society groups, campaigners, activists. There's government regulators, obviously, but they're just a bit slow in kind of moving quickly through legislation. And the companies themselves, Google DeepMind, for many years had red lines in place in their dealings with the government about military use. So this is not a new issue. And oftentimes it does come from the companies. It's just a question of whether that gets watered down. And sometimes that does happen.
Parmy, should we really be seeing this as a race of who gets there first, or how their models are great between the U.S. and China, and then within the U.S., OpenAI versus Anthropic versus DeepMind?
Yes, it is a race. It absolutely is a race. And that's why also earlier this week we saw this change in Anthropic's language around how it was pursuing its own safety principles. It was giving itself a little bit of extra flexibility in allowing itself to move more quickly and it talked about how the environment had become more competitive. So it absolutely is. And I think on the one hand, you talked about Anthropic being the good guys, but on the other, they are potentially compromising a little bit on those very strict safety principles to move ahead quickly and keep up.
Yeah, are they breaking too many things by going too quick? I'm not talking about Anthropic, but everyone, actually. And how far behind is China at this point?
So I would say things are getting broken on the fly. That's how these companies work. This is the Silicon Valley mantra. You iterate, you A/B test, you put it out in the public, and then you see things as they go wrong, then you fix them and you patch. So yes, I think things are going to break, as you say, and people will talk about edge cases, for example, some of the mental health issues that people have experienced, the court cases that have resulted from that. As far as where China is, they are absolutely catching up. I mean, because of the open source movement in China, models there like Alibaba's Quen, Kimi, I mean, these models are, and DeepSeek, obviously, we just had Chinese New Year, so there were a bunch of new announcements out of China. And yes, we are seeing things move much more quickly there.
Parmy, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Bloomberg opinion columnist there, Parmy Olson, also author of Supremacy, a great book that everyone should read.